After I found out that Ruby Dhalla learned about her disqualification from running for Liberal Party leader, I knew I had to reach out to her. So, on a whim, I sent her a message and was pleasantly surprised that she agreed to this non traditional media request. Here's my conversation with Ruby Dhalla. Ruby, thank you so much for joining me. This is the first time a Liberal politician was even willing to actually answer a question from a non-traditional media person. I'm just an account on X. And so I just want to start by asking a question for those that may not know you. What is your political background and why did you decide to run for the Liberal Party leader position?
Well, my name is Ruby Dhalla, and I was running for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada and to become Canada's next Prime Minister. I believe I had the experience, the insight as a doctor about the crisis of our healthcare system. As a businesswoman, I knew about the challenges that entrepreneurs and businesses in our country face with the overburdening of tax. I have been a three-time elected member of Parliament. I had legislative experience. And most importantly, I just have been living in the real world for the last 10 years, and I had my ear to the ground as to the many challenges that Canadians are facing and the type of leadership that they are looking for, which is to have a leader who is going to stand up for them and fight for our country.
Well, that sounds great. And what do you think of the last decade under the Trudeau government slash shadow Carney government and what they've done to this country? What do you think Canadians think about that?
Well, I think that Canadians are actually living it, and the reality is that there are way too many Canadians that are struggling. We take a look at the cost of homes. There are Canadians in our country because of these high prices that are unable to put a roof over their head. You take a look at grocery prices; they've all gone through the roof. People cannot put food on the table. You have Canadians that are working not only one job but two or three jobs, and they're trying to make ends meet. And when it comes down to it, they pay all of their bills. And guess what? They don't have very much money in their pockets because they've been overburdened. That is why in the leadership race, I spoke about progressive policy ideas, which would meet the need of the hour. I talked about having a review of our taxation system to create value for tax so that life could be more affordable for Canadians and Canadian families. I talked about initiatives of toughening up on crime, our crime legislation that we have, of bail reform, of ensuring that we actually start reducing the crime in our country so people start to feel safer. I talked about issues of affordability, of how to make life more affordable for Canadians who are working so hard, and also about ensuring that we start ensuring that Canada has a greater role in the world. And I think that it was these progressive ideas, that our campaign gained so much momentum from so many people across Canada.
And so I've noticed, what or any roadblocks have you met from the Liberal Party as running for Liberal leader? I know there's been a few.
Well, I'll talk about that in the coming days, but the roadblocks really started, from the first day of the campaign, and it was difficult to actually get access to various lists with registered Liberal members. There was issues with people wanting to donate into the campaign and the donor link, not working. So there were multiple issues, and I think most importantly was the limited ability to be able to communicate, with registered Liberals. But it's the power of social media. I went into the race with hundreds of thousands of followers just on my Instagram alone, and that's why we started to utilize our digital media to really get our word out of what our policies were, because I don't believe that anyone running for any type of leadership position in any party should ever be denied access or the ability to speak to its members. I started to hold virtual town halls, and in the 2 weekends that town halls were held, we had over 1,000 people just join these town hall meetings. We took a look at my Instagram page alone, in the last 30 days, we've had 4.7 million people engage with us just on Twitter. Last night alone, we had over 1.5 million people, engaging. So I started to use alternative means to reach out to the Liberals, because even though they were people that were trying to stop me in the establishment from connecting and communicating with people who are registered voters, we found more innovative ways to reach out, and that's why the momentum in our campaign continued to grow.
It sounds like you've been really successful at doing that. So, I mean, kudos to you for that. That's incredible. I know the typical liberal like Trudeau would not dare do something similar to you because he just gets booed everywhere he goes. Can you talk a little bit about what distinguishes you from someone like, let's say, Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau as a liberal?
Well, number one, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I haven't lived in the Ottawa bubble in the last 10 years. I grew up from very humble beginnings, being born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. My mother is a single mother who raised my brother and I. We've seen a lot of hardship, we've seen a lot of struggle and a lot of challenge in our life. And I believe those struggles and those sacrifices and that challenge that we, have lived through as a family are many of the same challenges that so many Canadians are actually facing. And because I had my ear to the ground over the last 10 years, I actually spoke about policies and put forward a platform which many people actually identified with and said, you know what, we need this now. This is the need of the hour. And she is actually speaking, with us about issues that we can connect with and identify with. And we identify with Ruby Dhalla. We connect with her. So a lot of people saw, their struggle, their sacrifice, and their journey in life, through my lens. And I just had the ability to connect with people, and that's why we were building this momentum, that I've shared with you. But I think that would be the biggest differentiating factor between myself and the individual that you mentioned.
It sounds like you really have your hand on the pulse of what's happening in Canada and the problems Canadians are facing. And I wanted to ask, do you think that's the reason the so-called establishment is trying to prevent you from succeeding in this leadership race? And now that they've put up this roadblock of disqualification, apparently?
Well, I don't know if there's room in the Liberal Party of Canada anymore for strong, smart, successful women, because they did this to Jody Wilson-Raybould. They've done it to a few other women. We have the Prime Minister, standing up on stage saying that preaching to the Americans that they should have elected, Kamala Harris, and it would have been time for a woman to lead America. Well, how about having a woman lead Canada? How about having a female prime minister in Canada, and a female prime minister who is a woman of color in Canada, and that as the leader for the Liberal Party of Canada? So I think that it's very easy to preach all of this, but to actually put it into action are two different things. I entered the leadership race. I didn't even receive a phone call from, Mr. Trudeau, sharing of the fact that this was a historic candidacy. My entry into the leadership race, was historic. I was the first female immigrant, to come from an immigrant family, to come from a multicultural community, and the first woman of color who was running for the leadership race. So the fact that the Liberal Party can go and turn around, and do this to not only myself, they did it to Mr. Arya, a few weeks ago. I think it just speaks to everyone just questioning, is the Liberal Party really liberal, and how inclusive are they when they keep on kicking out women, keep on kicking out the immigrants and people from multicultural communities, and also kicking out people who are trying to bring forth policy ideas which are the need of the hour. So I think that they wanted to complete the coronation of Mark Carney. They did not want to have Ruby Dhalla on that debate stage or on that ballot. And ultimately, they were denying not Ruby Dhalla, but they denied the thousands of people that were supporting me and wanted to vote for a Liberal Party that would be brought back to the center. And most importantly, a party where all the membership and the grassroots would actually have a voice.
Yeah, the Liberals and Trudeau, the Trudeau-Carney alliance, they do claim to care about minorities, people of color, women. Trudeau has said multiple times that he's a feminist. What do you make of them pushing out two candidates that are candidates of color, and a woman like yourself? Do you think they actually believe the things that they say when they say they care about women, minorities, etc.? Or do you think that's just their talking points to shield themselves from any criticism?
I think it's very easy to talk the talk, but I think that Canadians are much smarter than that. They're no longer looking, for political slogans or this type of rhetoric. actions always speak louder than words. And I can tell you, from my experience of this particular leadership campaign, that that is certainly not the case. The establishment continues to want, their white, blue-eyed boys to continue to get elected. And I wonder and I hope that they don't do this to Chrystia Freeland next, because you just never ever know what's down the pipeline with the establishment. But anyone who questions the establishment, or comes out with progressive ideas or wants to return the party back into the hands of the membership, the establishment clearly doesn't want that.
It does seem these actions from the Liberal Party, for example, I saw that on your X feed that you said that there's possibly the chance of them not returning the payment that's required to enter the leadership race. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. The entry for the leadership race was $350,000. That $350,000 was contributed by hardworking Canadians who are Canadian taxpayers. They donated, those monies. They made contributions into the campaign because they believed in the vision that I had. They believed in the mission and my policies and my platform about wanting to bring change, about wanting to make life more affordable, about ensuring that we reduce crime in our country. They believed in all of those, platform initiatives. That's why they donated. The deadline for that donation was the 17th of February. And guess what? A few hours later, after the $350,000 had been deposited, we received a letter stating that the Liberal Party wanted to have a meeting, in regards to certain issues. So it was quite interesting that this meeting only came about after the $350,000 was given. But I know that I speak for hundreds of volunteers who contributed to my campaign, who have stated that they were not doing this to have the coffers and the piggy banks of the Liberal Party full, with this $350,000 donation. So I think the party needs to do the right thing. They need to do the honorable thing and have that $350,000 returned to all of the hardworking Canadians who contributed.
I completely agree. Is it true that you learned about the disqualification first from the CBC? Do I have that right?
That is correct, shockingly and
Incredible.
surprisingly, that the government-funded CBC was the first people, to be made aware of what the decision of the Liberal Party was. I personally requested to the committee to not have this leaked to the media until they had first informed myself, and to not be extended even that type of common courtesy, I think is very, very, not only unfortunate, to be honest, it's just disgusting, to that type of, humiliation for someone who's running for the leadership of your party, someone who's signed up almost 100,000 members, within the party, to have that type of treatment. That to me just speaks of something that is not only unprofessional, but it really speaks to the fact that I believe in the Liberal Party, they have not welcomed, those who are from multicultural communities. They've not welcomed women, but most importantly, they are not welcome to have anyone in the party who is questioning the establishment, who wants to bring change. And the political party can the Liberal Party of Canada can no longer operate in, a five-person cabal or a fiefdom. This is the party of the people. And that was the voice that I was bringing to the table, was a party of the people. I did not enter that leadership race to look for a job. I entered the leadership race to be a very strong voice, to push the envelope. In an election campaign, to me, it's all about discussion and debate. And if you're not putting forward your ideas, or you keep on talking about the same old, what is the point of having, a leadership contest or an election campaign? But I was on a live interview with CBC, and while I had just started the interview, and the anchor says, "Oh, I just received an email from the national director of the Liberal Party of Canada," and this individual actually read out to me the announcement that the Liberal Party had put out. So it's just so disgusting.
That is unbelievably shocking. I agree with you. It's completely unacceptable. I'm sorry that that's happening. It doesn't sound like democracy to me at all. For people who preach that this is a threat to our democracy, and some other inane issue is a threat to our democracy. It sounds like they're being huge hypocrites there, because this feels extremely anti-democratic to push out leaders like that and to bar them out from the liberal leadership debates. Thank you so much for your time, Ruby. Just a few quick, lighthearted questions at the end here. I noticed that your meme game is really strong. The latest one that I saw was when you posted a video that says, "Who is Mark Carney?" and it links to Justin Trudeau 2.0. And I just wanted to know, is that your sense of humor, or do you have a meme team?
Some of it's my sense of humor, but you have to have fun in a campaign, and I think it's very important. And we're talking about very serious issues, putting forward very serious policy ideas, because when you're going to lead the country, it requires that level of seriousness. But it's also important in life to have a sense of humor and have some fun. And I think the memes are an opportunity for everyone, because we all need to have a good laugh once in a while in life.
We all love memes, absolutely. So that was just great to see. And one last question to you. Would you ever consider crossing the floor and running as a Conservative?
Right now, I'm in the process of, doing an appeal for the decision that has been made by the Liberal Party. My phone has been ringing off the hook from our thousands of volunteers across the country who are just really, distraught and very upset and actually furious with the Liberal Party that they would have the audacity to, for the second time, to kick out, someone from a cultural community, and also to continue to make it a habit to start kicking out women. And we have Chrystia Freeland wondering if she's going to be next, because with a party, you just never ever know. So for them to have this type of audacity, it's really unacceptable. I am here to be a very strong voice. We are going to be doing an appeal, and we look forward to that decision.
Ruby Dhalla, thank you so much for joining me. I know this is not the traditional thing that Liberals typically do, so it's incredibly, it's an honor to have you on, and I wanted to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for joining me, and good luck to you with all the things that you're trying to do to take down this establishment.
Thank you. It's important, to have our voices heard. And as I promised when I started my campaign, that I'm going to continue to stand up for Canadians. I'm going to fight for Canada because we need to ensure that Canada's comeback starts now.